In this video, we are going to check out on how to use Fillna, DROPNA and Interpolate to handle missing data in Pandas. I am going to use this CSV file. This has first name, age, experience, salary and company, and it also has quite a few missing values in it. I am going to read this file into a Pandas data frame, and from there on I am going to show you how to handle these missing data. I am going to use Jupyter Notebook for this tutorial, and if you wanted to know how to install Jupyter, you can refer my video on Python playlist. The first video in the Python playlist will be having instructions on how to install Python via Anaconda, and that in turn installs all the IDEs that is coming up with Anaconda, which includes Jupyter. So you can refer that link which is provided in the description of this video. Now coming back to the tutorial, here we are having first 3 lines of this code, where in the first line I am importing pandas as PD, and then I am reading the CSV file that we just saw before, and I am just storing that CSV file into a data frame, and I am here displaying the data frame. So I am just running this piece of code using shift enter. So as you can see here, the CSV file that we saw has been stored in the format of a data frame, and here we can see that the data frame has first name, age, experience and salary, and it also has all the null values that we had seen, and it also is auto indexed from 0 through 7. Now I wanted to change the index. I don't wanted to have this auto index but I wanted to have the first name as index. In order to set the first name as index, I can just use set_index. So here I am just using df.set_index, and as per arguments I am giving the first name, and then I am giving in place equal to true. So this particular line sets the index, and the index name is going to be the first name column, and now when I just display the data frame, you can see that the first name is mentioned as index, and then the remaining columns are staying as is. Now we can check out how to handle all these NAs using the Fillna function. So I am just using df.fillna, and then I am using 0. So this particular line will fill all the NAs with zeros, and I am going to store the value or the output into a new data frame called df1, and then I am typing the df1. So when I run this, you can see that all the NAs are now having values zeros. Here is the original data set, and I have grayed out all the places or cells which had NAs, and now if you can just compare it, you can see zeros in place of all the NAs. So I can also actually modify specific columns, and in order to do that I can use the dictionary format. So here I am just using df.fillna, and then within that, say I just wanted to use zeros only for the age column. So here I am giving age, and the value of NAs in age should be modified to 0. So I am storing that in df1, and I am just displaying the df1. When I run this, you can see that the age column has all zeros, but the remaining columns are still having the NA values as is. So I can also use the same dictionary format, fill multiple columns. So in order to do that, I can just use the same dictionary format in df.fillna, and within that, say age, I wanted to have it as maybe 20, and then salary, I wanted to modify the salary as maybe 65,000, and then company, I wanted to update the company name as Netflix. So now in a single line I am able to modify the NA values of different columns with different values. So the outcome, I am going to store this in a new data frame by name df1 again, and then I am going to print the df1. So when you see this here, age is having all 20s wherever you are seeing age as NAs, and then salary is going to have 65 wherever there was NA in two places, it is going to have 65, and then the company is going to have Netflix wherever there was NA. So here in the original file, which is displayed on the right side of your screen, you can see that the age of Lois is 36.36 and the age of Etna and Dan both are null. So I can just use a method called forward fill or ffill to populate the age of Etna and Dan with the age of Lois. So the value just is copied to the subsequent cells. Similarly, for the experience of Diane, the experience of Etna is moved forward or copied. So in order to do that, I can use the method ffill in the fill NA function. So I am just using fill NA, and then I am specifying the method and giving the value as ffill. The resultant outcome, I am storing it in a data frame df1. I am displaying the df1, and when I run this, you can see that here. So you can see that the age of Etna is and Diane both are 36.36 because it's copied from from the age of Lois, and you can see that 45.5 is moved forward to Adam. Similarly, 9 is moved forward to the experience of Diane, 5 is moved forward to the experience of Scott, and 25 is moved forward to the experience of Adam. In a similar way, the values are moved forward to occupy the null values. So in the method ffill or forward fill, the values are copied forward, and there is one another method called bfill or backward fill where the values are copied backwards. Say when I use the method bfill, then the values are these two cells, the age of Etna and Diane would be copied from the age of Benjamin, so the values would be filled backwards. In order to demonstrate that, I am using the fill NA, and then I am specifying the method as bfill, and again I am just assigning it to df1, displaying the value of df1, and when I run this, you can see that the age of Etna and Diane here, it is 40.31, which is copied from the age of Benjamin. Similarly, you can see that the salary of Adam is 120k, which is copied from the salary of Paul, and the salary of Benjamin here is mentioned as 60k, which is copied from the subsequent value. The method bfill and ffill by default copies the values from the previous rows or the next rows, but if you wanted to copy the values from the previous columns or next column, then you can add one another argument called axis and specify the value of axis as 1. Here I am using the method bfill, which stands for backward fill, and I am going to indicate the axis as 1. So when I do this, what should happen is this particular salary null value that should be filled by Netflix, and experience for Diane should be filled by 18294, and the age of Diane also should be filled with 18294. So likewise, all the movements should be from the subsequent column to the previous column, that is backward fill. And let's just see how this behaves. I am running this piece of code. If you can see, the age of Diane and the experience of Diane both are having 180 to 94, and you can also see that the experience of Scott is 60,000, and if you see that the values of Adam, all those are still NaN. So the reason for it is because there is no other column within the same row which is having values. So either backfill or the forward fill, both will not work in this case if the axis is equal to 1. So similarly, when I can use the method ffill or forward fill, and I can indicate the axis as 1, and in that case what happens is, maybe I'll just do that, and then probably you can check out how the result is. Here, instead of bfill, I'm just using ffill, and then when I run this and compare it against the original data set, you can see that the value of age for Etna and Diane is still NaN because it does not consider the index. So the first name here is the index, and so the filling does not consider the index. So still the age of Diane and Etna is still NaN. And when you see the experience of Scott, here it is 25, right? So this 25 has moved forward here, and similarly the company of Scott is mentioned as 60 because the 60 has moved over here. I can also set a limit indicating that how much NA should be filled. Say here, for the case of age, both Etna and Diane are having NAs, but I don't wanted to fill the age of Diane with 36.36, but I just wanted to fill the age of Etna with 36.36. So I just can indicate the limit as 1 so that it just fills to one subsequent cell. So based on the number that is indicated in the limit parameter, the corresponding number of NAs are filled. I can just show you by using the same ffill, and then instead of axis I am just going to modify it with the limit, and here limit is equal to 1, and when I run this you can see that still the age of Diane is NaN, and this is because the limit has been set as 1. Now let's check out what interpolate does. So in order to demonstrate that, I am just using df.interpolate, and then I am storing the resultant to a new data frame by name data frame 1 df1, and I am running the piece of code displaying the df1, and if you can see that and compare it against the original data frame, interpolate has obviously filled out all the NAs for the column with data type as integers or float, but it has not done anything to the values of the columns which are having strings or alphabets. So when you check the age of Adam, previously it was NA, but now it has been filled with 40.25, and this 40.25 is the average between 45.5 and 35. So interpolate actually comes up with equally spaced values between two values and uses that value to fill the NA. Same has happened with the experience of Adam. If you see the experience, it was NA earlier or null earlier, and then now it has been filled with 17.5, which is the average of 25 and 10. So if you see the age of Etna and Diane, it has been filled with equally spaced values between 36.36 and 40.31. So if you see here, 37.67 is kind of average between 38.99 and 36.36, and 38.99 is the average between 40.31 and 37.67. So interpolate comes up with equally spaced values and uses that values to fill the NAs. But it does this work only for the columns that are having numbers, and it does not impact or make any changes to the columns that are having alphabets or strings. Now let's check out what DROPNA does. So I am just using DROPNA, df.dropna, and I am storing the resultant of that into df1, and I am displaying the value of df1. When I run this piece of code, I can see only 3 lines and all the remaining lines have been removed. So comparing it with the original dataset, I can see that Louis is having all the values and there is no NA for Louis, and same for Brad and Paul. So DROPNA actually removes the rows even if it has 1 NAs. So there may be a situation where I just wanted to retain the rows which are having 1 NA or 2 NA, but I just wanted to delete the rows which are not having any values at all. So in order to do that, I am just using df.dropna, and then in the how I am going to mention it as all. So here I am going to store the result to df1, and I am typing the df1, and when I run this piece of code and compare it against the original dataset, I can see that the row for Adam is removed because it is having NA for all the columns, and all the remaining rows are there without any impact. I can also retain the rows based on how many non-NA values that the row is having. For that, I can use the parameter thresh, and I can give a threshold value to it. So I can just use it along with DROPNA. I am typing in df.dropna, and then here I am typing in the thresh as 1, and then I am storing the outcome to df1, and I am typing the df1. When I run this piece of code, you can see that I am indicating that thresh equal to 1. It means that any rows which is having at least 1 non-NA values should be retained. So I can see that there are actually rows here. All of these rows are having at least 1 non-NA values, and it is retained from the original dataset. Now I can just show you one another value for thresh. I am just modifying that to 3, and then when I run this, more rows are filtered. So here I am just seeing that if a row is having at least 3 non-NA values, then only it is retained. Say for example, for Etna, these 3 are not NAs, but there is 1 NA, so it's retained. Same for all the other rows where it is having at least 3 non-NA values. And when I change it to 4, then probably you can see only these 3 rows which are having at least 4 non-NA values. So this is the use of thresh. I think this video was useful to you. I am going to store this code in my GitHub repository and include the link of it in the description of the video so that you can refer as needed. And if you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe my channel. Thank you very much.